Good morning from the UK and good evening. I understand it's about 10 past 8 with you in Melbourne,
That's right,
Australia,
Morgan.
over
It
there.
is, yes.
Good
Yeah.
evening. And how's it? Because we're kind of heading for spring, so it's March time. And you've had your summer over what is our Christmas? Heading towards autumn now?
It's
But
meant
still
to
warm,
be,
I'm
but
guessing. Yeah.
it is very, very
Okay.
warm. I saw a lovely meme in one of our local sort of papers here that autumn has been cancelled until further notice. So yeah, we're still
Oh,
ploughing
goodness.
on with hot weather. Yes.
Wow. I can tell by the fan going over your.
Yes. Yeah. Yeah.
We don't have, we do have, my husband has bought an air conditioner, but we haven't used it yet since living in this house. But yes, it can get nice over here. Anyway,
One or two.
this
Oh
is
no.
what we do. Us Brits talk about the weather, but we're actually here to talk about you and your writing.
Sure.
So we'll start at the beginning because we will be coming on to your. I'm just looking at the picture. It's a gorgeous picture of your book.
He's cute. He's
How you got into because we're right. This is a children's. I'm guessing the first of the series. We'll talk about
yeah.
what you're doing next a bit later. So how did you get into writing? Have you written at all, or you just decided this would be your thing? This one.
I have always written. In fact, when I was at school in England, I found the other day in 1969, to give away a bit of my age there, I got a creative writing award um, up in Norfolk, which they were probably giving away with packets of cornflakes at the time. But um, through my professional life, I've always written industry articles, thought documents on LinkedIn, all my own brochures, etc. So writing's always been a strong interest to me. I've always, when I left school, I meant to do journalism, but it never quite worked out, and just always dabbled away. I've got a filing cabinet full of all the scribblings I've had since I had spots the first time. So, but I retired last year and thought this was an opportunity to finally pursue that dream, and ended up writing a children's book, which was a genre that I've never had any particular focus or interest in. And it was just I call it penicillin. It was a complete and utter mistake. So there you go. There's a line for you.
Wow. No, I remember I do have some of my school books, and there's one. My mum did the art and kind of cheated, but I think I probably owned
Yeah.
up. I'm too much of a goody two shoes to take credit for it. Um, and it's a very I wrote a story about an ampersand, and so my mum drew an ampersand that looked like a worm,
Lovely.
and I remember that from school days. But I loved writing from school.
Yes.
So yes, it's interesting the career and Norfolk. I love Norfolk. Can't remember the name of it now, but the Brancaster is one of my
Yes.
favourite.
The beach.
Yes,
I
a
always
little
remember that
pocket.
for the wherever you stood on the beach, it was full of quicksand. I do remember that as a young
Really?
kid. So yeah, so
Wow. Wow.
yeah,
How lovely. How lovely. So, do you write? You've written this book. Do you still write on a fairly regular basis? Is it something you kind of if you get because some people, I would like to be where if I haven't written something in a day, I feel that life isn't quite complete. I kind of do, but life does have this habit of taking over. Do you
absolutely.
have a sort of set goal or something you'd like to do, um,
Well,
aim for within the week or?
having created this particular character, he's now become quite dominant in how I do write, in as much as there is a series of books in my mind to the point where three follow-ups are now complete. Well, the fourth one is just about finished. So it has been a pleasurable experience almost each day, sitting down, and I create the imagery in Photoshop to
Okay.
accompany the words that I'm writing. So, and that's what I said to you about it being totally accidental. I'm actually meant to be in my retirement a photographer, and in trying to sort of get my head around what every time you turn on Photoshop these days, there's an update, and it's usually to do with their new AI engine. And I wanted to see what that was all about.
Yes.
So, in
Mm.
experimenting with what that can produce, um, that led me to create a series of characters which just became printed images for the grandkids to play with. And that then became, well, why don't I write something for the grandkids? Which then became, well, why don't you do something with this? So, and then having been accepted with that first book, it now has led me to think, well, there's all sorts of places we can go with the characters because
Yeah.
I like them and a few other people seem to like them as well. So
Mm.
writing is now a constant. Absolutely, yeah.
And who doesn't love a panda?
It seems fairly safe, doesn't it?
It does, absolutely. Very, very cute and yes, cute and cuddly.
Yeah,
Um, so you've just told us how why you wrote children's books, that it was out of your comfort zone, but obviously you have experience with children. And this is what we often find is that as children's authors, either they've had children or they have grandchildren, and that tends to be the inspiration behind that they write for them with no intention of it going anywhere.
correct. Yeah,
Um,
yeah, and it's just
and then
very
all of a
organic.
sudden,
Yeah, very organic the way that it grows. And it's a ripple effect. You start off with just that initial thought of just keeping it local and keeping it for the family, and it just morphed quicker and beyond what I ever thought that it could. So
so how did you get published? Did you do the sort of traditional send it out to publishers and see?
yeah, I um, and I can touch on that later on. The publishing world, coming from the industry that I was in, which was ergonomics and posture and comfort and products for that. That seems such almost a cottage industry compared to the publishing world, which is a very multi-layered and multifaceted beast that I'm just sort of getting my head around now. But I did send it off. I had hoped of picking up an English publisher because of my origins. I thought that would give me yet another excuse to come home um, to Britain more regularly. But I sent it off to about six or seven and received about four positive responses to say we would like to talk more about publishing your book. But I ended up with the publisher that I did in the States. But I just felt that the level of control that they allowed me to have beyond the publishing of the book appealed to me. So that's why I chose them.
Mm.
And yeah, it gets published in a few weeks' time. So I'm very keen to see how that process, rolls out. So
This is lovely. So you've not had a. I should have asked you this before we recorded. You don't have a physical copy there as
I
yet because
do,
there's nothing
I do,
quite like. Oh, you do. Do you
I
have it
do.
to show us? Have it handy. Because there's nothing quite like. There we go. There's nothing quite like holding your first baby.
No, no, you're absolutely right. I can't pretend to understand the what women do with childbirth, so I won't make any comparisons with that. But it is
So
like, yeah,
it's
seeing
well,
a thought bubble.
I haven't had children, but I know how difficult it is to
Yeah,
get those from start to finish
no, it
and out
yeah,
there. So
it's it remains to be for me surreal. I still can't believe that this is happening. So yeah, it's great.
you mentioned earlier on that you were designing the pictures as you were going along. Were the pictures that we see on the cover, is that your work, or
It is.
did they have a
Yeah,
cover? Okay.
yeah. So the great thing about working in Photoshop is you have a great degree of creativity and personalization. So it's not just like asking an AI generator to come up with a picture and that's all you get. Once you're in Photoshop, you actually can pick a number of different styles and then refine them down to details on their faces or on their bodies, etc. So as much as it is all done on computer, you actually are creating and painting digitally, I suppose. So
Mm.
and that's a fun process. But I did it initially to see what the impact is on the world of photography, and
Right.
and then yeah, happy with the results that it created for me in terms of matching up to the text that I wanted to produce for the book.
No, they're fabulous pictures. Fabulous cover. The cover I've seen, I've been on your blog with all sorts of different pictures on there.
Yeah,
It's just gorgeous. And that's the thing. These days, children want, and have always probably wanted rich colours and cute designs and
Yeah,
something that
yeah,
draws them in. Because they say don't judge a book by a cover, but when you're on Amazon and the picture, the cover is literally just sort of large postal
sure.
stamp size. You
Yeah.
have to. It has to be the cover. And the name, Pardoo. Where did the name come from?
I will credit my wife completely 100% with that. I asked her, she actually should be writing these books. She's very talented. She's a lovely artist and has always been a good writer herself. Um, and I actually, when I retired, had a spare laptop and tried to put it under her nose to encourage her to write, but she just left that to me. So I thought at least when it comes to naming the children, she could have that. She did. She did very well. There's a number of characters throughout the books that are all down to her. So yes,
Well, it
collaborative.
makes sense because I think it's on the Amazon page where you have the name of the sister. Um,
Priya.
no, it's not on that one. I've got them
Yeah,
open here. I think it's on
Priya.
your blog.
Yeah,
Yes, so they all start with P for panda, which often happens. And children tend to. I know I used to work with a lady whose boyfriend had four children, and they all began with an L. So there's Leo
yeah.
and Layla and a couple of others. Um, and so it's that ties in nicely. I like that.
It's got
Like
alliteration in there.
Pardue,
Yeah.
it is yes. And also you've got the do, the kind of they do, so it's a sort of active,
Yes.
proactive.
Yeah. Very
Um,
true.
so yes, very clever thinking.
Oh,
So
well, I can't
you
take
have your
quite a credit.
right. So you have your book, you have your cover, you have the publisher. So it's Jennifer at Daisy Lane who set this interview up today. So
Yeah.
my thanks always go to Jennifer for a lot of the children's authors I speak to. So the book is up and running. And are you involved? You've obviously said that you chose this publisher because you had more say, and that's the thing. You kind of find that the higher up in the tree a publisher is, the less input the author has.
Yeah.
So it's nice, and especially because you've been able to design the covers. And why wouldn't they say yes to having these covers? So I mean, your blog is named after the book, the characters.
Yeah.
Um, are you out there as you? If Mark Cohen, obviously a singer, and I've been singing walking in Memphis all morning. Before this, do you ever get confused, or do people write to you and say, think that you are the? I suppose it's not that uncommon a name,
No,
um,
it's not.
but you kind of hope that if people look for Mark Cohen, especially if he's got a book on Amazon, they might find you. It's a bit like Jeffrey Archer. There are two British, I think they're both British writers called Jeffrey Archer, one with a J, the main one, and then Jeffrey. They both write thrillers. So you
Yes.
kind of think, well, maybe I shouldn't have the same name as someone famous, but I don't think it does any harm.
No,
People
I
remember
suppose that
your name.
they do, and then maybe in time, the more famous will start leveraging off me. But I think that's a fair way down the track. But you never know. I think it is a relatively common name, but there's a quite a well-known photographer by the same name, I think, in Holland. So and I receive quite often from LinkedIn, are you the author that wrote this geneticist medical paper? No, that wasn't me, but there's obviously
Okay.
a lot of bright Mark Cohens around the world. Yes.
Right. Yes, absolutely. Yes, I make a thing of me being Morgan with an E because I'm Morgan Bailey rather than
Yeah.
Morgan Bailey. And I won't say it here, but I get some interesting emails because there is a Cedia Morgan Bailey in America. You can Google it and find her.
Right.
Yes, interesting. When I do
Sure.
talks, it depends who I'm talking to. If I'm doing a WI, a Women's Institute, then I'm a little bit
Yeah.
more refined. But at
Yes.
networking, then I will say that who the one of the Morgan Baileys. But there are a few dotted around. So I have Google Alerts set up for Morgan Bailey and Morgan Bailey.
Right.
and get some interesting results. I think one of the latest ones is this rocket scientist, but also a Bonnie and Clyde murderer, Morgan Bailey, out in America. Anyway, we're deviating from why we're here. So marketing. So you have a blog. You're on Twitter. You're on Facebook, and you mentioned you're on LinkedIn.
Yeah.
Do you find that you get support? Because I know from my experience with Daisy Lane for sure, that they're very proactive with marketing. I know it's early days for you with this series, but
Yeah, I think the one area that everyone is encouraging me to be highly visible on his Instagram in terms of being an author, and it's probably my weakest social media channel. So there's plenty of homework for me to do there. I've had some great success with Facebook using paid ads, etc., to create campaigns. That really does work very well. So because you can only leverage your friends and family for so many copies.
yes,
Um, so Pardoo on Facebook has quickly got up to 500 followers,
great.
which is nice. And in my photography world, we are working on YouTube as being our main route to market. So maybe in time there'll be some sort of visual Pardoo that we can we can start working on as well. But I do acknowledge that Instagram is, and I've been told, two, three, four posts a week should be what you're aiming for, which does seem to be almost like um, too much. But if that's what the industry standard is, then I acknowledge that. So we'll work towards it.
I guess it depends how many people and your followers, how many people they follow, because they
Yes.
literally just appear as a feed, like they do on Facebook homepage, appear as a feed. But I think as soon as you said Instagram, I thought, yes, that would work really well because it's so visual.
Yeah. Yeah.
Facebook tends to be more about, what you're talking about, whereas Instagram, it's the pictures that capture people.
They do work together hand in hand. So it's definitely a, a learning curve, and it's my next mountain to climb for sure.
Yeah, it is definitely a learning curve. I say to my students that writing the book is the easy part. It's then when it's
Absolutely.
out there, it's getting
Yeah.
people to know that it exists.
Yeah.
So tell us
I
more about. Sorry, say, Karen.
I was just going to say I've door knocked a lot of bookshops to introduce myself, the independent bookstores, and they all say the same thing, that the book is nice, but if they've met so many prospective new authors knocking on their door with a book, but have no social marketing skills, and the book goes nowhere because the hard bit is actually then taking that in and getting it into the market. So you're right.
There's absolutely. Well, you're halfway there, I think, with the cover. It is just finding. And I like
Yeah,
Facebook. I tried Facebook ads with this academy, and it's lovely seeing because on Amazon ads you'll see it goes into a bit of a black hole because they appear, and you never
yeah,
know who's clicking or what people are thinking.
sure. Yeah.
Whereas on the Facebook posts that people are then commenting on, giving you feedback, which is always useful.
Yeah, you can
And this
identify
is
them and
why the
communicate.
blog.
Yeah,
Yeah,
communicate back with them.
absolutely. Absolutely. So how many, we're going to talk about what you're doing now, how far you're up to. So obviously the first book is coming out
April the
shortly.
15th. Yeah.
Right, there we go. And a couple of weeks. And then have you written any more of the next ones? I think you said you planned four.
Book two and book three are finished. So they're all done. And book
Okay.
four will be done by the weekend. So they've just literally, you lay awake at night and they write themselves. You know, uh, I won't make any comparison to Paul McCartney, but he said he woke up with the song yesterday in his mind, waking up. And quite often with Pardoo, you wake up with a more than half decent plot in mind. So it's been very easy to write the second, third, and fourth books. So
Right.
um,
Right.
I'm now wondering what to do, how much space to give the first book on its own before announcing the follow-ups, and whether or not they should be. I've had conflicting advice about spacing them out at least 6 months apart each, or
Right.
releasing them all in a block just to sort of make
Yeah.
a lot of noise. So yeah, there's an interesting
Yeah.
science obviously in that as well.
Yes, well, I think with novels, you read it. It takes a year, I generally, to write a novel, and that will write and polish and then submit, and then probably another year for certainly traditional marketing. So that's 2 years. So
Yeah,
then I think then a year thereafter, if you're fairly prolific, um, and readers then will read them in a weekend. Go, great. When's your next one coming out? You go, well,
yeah.
in about 11 months and 28 days. And so I couldn't really say one way or the other. I think if you've got them, then put them out together so that people can then, once they've read one. But then if it's going to take, it's tricky. I can see why you might be advised both ways,
I
because
know
then if you get the first three out and then there's a
yeah,
gap, people will go on to something different.
I know with my wife, she reads Nora Roberts, and for example, you know,
Mm.
you know it's a trilogy, and you know that you have to wait 12 months till the next one comes out, and that must be very frustrating, where you almost forget what the point of the plot was by the time you pick up the second one. So yeah, it, finding that sweet spot is going to be a challenge as well. So
Or maybe compromise and do every 3 months, so there's not
I
so
hope
much of a gap,
yeah,
something
yeah.
like that. Yeah. So do you think you might have more than four in this series? Do you think it might be ongoing? Have you got any idea of writing something different? Maybe a
Uh,
spin-off or something completely different?
in the world of photography, I have a business partner who is a professional photographer, and we both like to make the YouTube channel work very well for us. And we have this plan for each video that we create will become a chapter in what is essentially a coffee table book on photography, almost like a cookbook, so that you've got different sections on how to, where to go, which kit to use, etc. So I'd like to think in the not too distant future there could be other books in that genre. And I still have, as I said to you, those filing cabinets full of scribblings and um, other ideas. And there's been two or three that have been in the back of my mind gestating away for the best part of at least 10 years. And you have to think if an idea won't go away, that it's crying out for some
Won't be.
air. So at
Yeah.
some point we will put Pardoo down for a little while and perhaps attend to
Mhm.
something a little bit more in that the historical thriller type of genre, because that does appeal to me as well.
I like the idea of instructional videos on YouTube, because if somebody wants to know something, 99 times out of 100, if they want to be shown something, obviously if they just want to read something, they'll go on search engines. But I think if you want to be shown how to do something, you do go on YouTube.
Yeah, I mean, I had to change a tap the other day in the kitchen, and the first place you go to is YouTube, because
Oh,
it tells you exactly what you need. So yeah, and even
yeah.
in a very crowded space like photography, there's a lot of people giving the same sort of message, but it comes down to your individual style and your personalities. So um, there's always room for somebody else to come in with their version of how to do things as well. So yeah,
Absolutely. And I think if you're going to make it a regular thing, people will subscribe and they'll know that every week, every fortnight, every month there'll be
yeah,
um,
that's right.
a new episode. That sounds great. So watch this
Yeah,
space, as they say.
see what happens. That's right.
Well, thank you very much for joining me today. It's been an absolute pleasure.
Been lovely talking
And
to you, Morgan.
hopefully we'll
Yeah.
see you with an audience in this next episode, at some point in the not too distant future, I'm hoping. So
Let's
thank you
hope
very
so.
much. And thank you again to Jennifer at Daisy Lane for arranging our
Very much
chat
so.
today.
Thanks,
Thank you,
Morgan.
Mark. Okay,
Cheers. Thank you.
bye-bye.
Bye bye.